Hello, children. Do you like uncanny valley kanjis? Today's topic is the Khitan script, large and small. Like, comment, and subscribe. So long ago in the year 1111, there existed three dynasties in China. No, not that era. The other one, after the Tang Dynasty. Two of them I went over pretty much, but the big guy in the northeast was the Liao Dynasty. The Liao Dynasty was a huge kingdom founded by the Khitan people, a nomadic group whose people descended from the Proto-Mongols right around here-ish. In 916, as China was fucking up and dying, the Khitans united under one leader, Yelu Abaoji, and created their own dynasty, pretty much copying what the Chinese were doing with their government. And with that, they used their extraordinary strength and conquered a bunch of land. They even tried invading Korea like 3 times. Wow, Maruhi, this empire seems to be so big and sexy. What happened to them? So in the year 1114, the Jurchens got pretty pissed at being subjugated and shit. Man, I'm getting sick of all these rapes, kidnapping, and pillaging, man. And so they rebelled against the empire. The Liao dynasty was eventually replaced by the Jin dynasty, and the remaining nobles fled west and created their own khanate, which didn't last that long. And eventually, the remaining Khitan peoples were assimilated into other cultures. In the following years, the Jurchens would eventually replace the language and writing system with their language and also brand new writing system, and the Khitan language would eventually die out. The end. Alright, so now that you know all that, let's go back to Yelu Abaji. Now this guy was a genius, man. Once he took over, he immediately took to creating a writing system for his language as part of his record keeping and national identity. What his team eventually created was the Khitan large script, sorta basically inspired from China. Khitan large script implies the idea of a Khitan small script, and that exists too, but I'll talk about that later. Now, the Khitan language and the scripts are currently under a lot of research and analysis just because they're all dead and shrouded in mystery. With that being said, I'm going to try my best at cracking this script open. It hasn't stopped me before, and it's not going to stop me when we go over the next two scripts. So, for the doctorate, is the Khitan language synthetic or analytic? Tick, 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 tick. Despite the fact that Khitan's a dead lost language, researchers are pretty confident that it's an agglutinative synthetic language, cause A. Para-Mongolic languages and their contact theory relatives, Mongolian, Turkish, and even Korean all share this system where words and sentences are structured by stacking many suffixes and prefixes. B. The existence of a Khitan small script, a script literally invented to suit the agglutinativeness of the Khitan language. They wouldn't have invented an entirely new script if the first one didn't work. And C. Khitan, as far as we know, writes in a subject-object-verb order. If the language was related to analytic Chinese, it would have most likely been a subject-verb-object language. The Khitan large script is the logo-syllabary script just like Japanese, except instead of having an extra syllabary or two, it's just all one script. Up, down, right, left. If you haven't noticed already, it's pretty obvious they stole most of the design concepts from China. Other characters though, I'm pretty impressed by how cool they made some of these. Okay, here, this is the character for heaven. They added this bottom dirt to really sell the idea of a sky above, I guess, and it looks really fucking cool. This is the character for child, and this is years old. Very nice. Other changes the script has that I thought was pretty dope is that they have their own characters for multiples of 10. Here are the numbers from 1 to 10, and then here are some of those multiples of 10 numbers that they've been able to identify. Sadly, as far as I know, there's no characters for multiples of hundreds or thousands or 10,000, sadly. You just apply them normally, except for multiples of 10. Alright, let's talk about money now. Since 922, Lao produced their own currency in the form of these copper alloy coins with large script inscriptions on them. For 200 years, they've been producing them, but at a fraction of the amount Song Dynasty was making theirs, and also at a fraction of the quality. That's why you go on eBay for these coins, it goes for thousands of dollars. Roman coins with the same quality goes for around the same, so I don't know, which one would you rather have? By the way, the characters you see on them transcribes as Tencho Banjung into Japanese. It most likely translates to something like Heavenly Dynasty, 10,000 years. Looks like this turned untrue as they only lasted about 200 years instead. Alright, now I'm going to talk about animals because the subject isn't very easy to teach about. So just looking around, I seriously doubt that most rackles are there for good reason. Once they copied off China, there really isn't much problem. But the originals, why do they look like that? So this is the character for dog. You got a head and a leg. It's a dog. And all the other animals share the same pattern. This is pig or business, head and leg. Dragon, head and leg. here's goat, and then here's chicken. Is this simply a coincidence? Maybe. While on this topic, here's the rest of the Chinese zodiacs. Get a tattoo with the corresponding character of your zodiac year and I'll give you a shout out. If you want to take a look at these characters yourself, I got a link in the description with both lists of scripts. Before I move on to Khitan small script, this is how you write Kim Jong-un in KLS. I am the first person to write Kim Jong-un in KLS. Okay, so what's Khitan small script then? So with the existing large script, the small script was invented by the little bro of Yelu Abaoji to better suit the agglutinativeness of the Khitan language. We don't know if there was a rule of when to use each script, and people most likely just use whichever whenever they wanted to. Although there's only about 350 of these characters, the way words and sentences are compounded makes the script about 10 good levels of batshit insaneness. So you know how Hangul organizes letters by arranging them in one of these ways? Khitan actually does something similar, except A. There's 7 variations in which words can be organized, not counting solos. B. There are 5 types of phonetic characters in one of these orders. Apparently for sounds like ta, you could go for either the T consonant A vowel, or just go for the ta syllabic character. There might have been a rule of when to use what, but from what I'm reading, it was apparently fine to use whatever. And C. Not all the characters are either phonetic or syllabic, despite the fact that this looks Korean. Some characters within these blocks contain words and suffixes with their own rules on how to use. Let me explain what I mean with this example. So here's all 6 of the genitive particles to put at the end of a character. So on top you have the topic. It could be whatever, but for some reason the source lists a leader, the husband of a noblewoman, great king, empress dowager, the emperor, or the tang. And depending how that word is pronounced, use the corresponding genitive particle as part of Khitan's rule of vowel harmony. This might sound weird if you're an outsider like me, but apparently the idea of vowel harmony is also used in Mongolian, Turkish, and even Korean, believe it or not. Okay, so you remember how Khitan large script has characters for multiples of 10 as well as regular numbers? Khitan small script has that too, and they made it really easy to write. Assuming there's no characters for multiples of 100, here's 432, 5,983, 91,760. KSS numbers also have this other mechanic that I really don't understand, but when you add a tear stroke to these characters, all of a sudden they're grammatically masculine. In what fucking society will you use a number masculinely? Moving on to animals now, unlike the simplicity of the head and leg combi of the KLS, KSS animals are insanely complicated. Here's what I mean. This is dog in kanji, this is dog in KLS, and this is dog in KSS. It looks like 2 characters, but it's actually 1, believe it or not. This is goat, horse, rabbit, chicken, and snake. It's incredibly complicated. And those are the ones that are recovered, by the way. Here's the rest of the 12 Chinese zodiacs. Again, if you get one of these tattoos, I'll give you a shout out. Let's move on to the next topic, which are coins. Now, Lao coins sometimes do have Khitan small script written on them. Are these authentic? I don't know. Do these say anything? I also don't know. So instead, I'm going to talk about this bronze plate from earlier. Turns out we actually do know what this says. It's a poem, so sit your ass down. All the long chapters that were named and written, shining brightly, each chapter arises one by one, embracing both good and evil, the good friends who now revere and worship, those who are sincere and faithful, I wish they may always remain, my closest circle. I'm not a poet, so I pasted that shit in ChatGPT. TLDR is a poem that honors the past, accepts the truth, praises the present companions, and expresses a wish for it to continue. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut it here. Unlike Tanga, you can't just find a radical and just talk about it since research for this language is at its basics at the moment. But if you have any notes about either scripts that you think I should have talked about, please write that in the comments. Next episode will be about the Jurchen script, which is also underanalyzed. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week or something. Bye. Early in the morning, the sun was up and the sky was a very blue. Without a warning, as I looked out, my thoughts returned to you. A noise in the city made the children run and hide themselves away. And thunder boomed and lightning filled the sky.